Welcome to our tutorial about the fillet command. A fillet basically is a round corner. Let's start by activating the fillet tool. Here it is on the Modify panel. The command line shows us the current settings. Trim mode is active, radius 0. Let's right-click and select radius. Enter a value of 1 unit on the command line and press Enter. Now AutoCAD prompts us to select the first object. I'll take this line here, and then I'll select the line on top. And here's our fillet of radius 1 unit. AutoCAD has trimmed the extension of the lines with which I made the fillet. Let's undo that. Let's activate the fillet command again. Current mode trim, radius 0. Let's right-click and work with the radius dimension. Enter a value of 0.5 and press Enter. Now we select the objects to fillet. First line and the second line. Now, as you can see, we did use the same 2 lines, but we ended up with a completely different result. And that's because the location of the fillet depends upon how you select your objects. Let's undo this fillet. Activate the command again. Let's work with the radius dimension. Right-click and select radius. Enter a value of 1.5 units and press Enter. If we want to create multiple fillets, we can right-click and select multiple. We're ready to select a first object and a second object. Here's our fillet. The tool remains active, so let's create another fillet with another set of clicks. If I want a sharp corner, what I do is hold the Shift key down on the keyboard while I make my selections. First and second lines. Since we're in multiple mode, the tool remains active. Let's let AutoCAD know we'd like to work with the radius again, and we'll change the value to 2. Press Enter. Let's make our selections, this line and this line. Here's our fillet. When done, you can press Escape to exit the tool. Let's click Undo and activate the fillet command again. Again, let's change the radius. Right-click, radius. Let's enter 2 units. Press Enter. And let's go back to multiple mode. Right-click, multiple. This time, I'm going to use the Trim option. Right-click and select Trim. We're going to need to right-click and specify which trim mode. Let's use No Trim. Now I'm going to select this line and this line. As you see, our fillet is created without trimming the extensions. Let's create a couple more fillets. Right-click and Enter to exit the tool. Let's try a few more examples. I'm going to create some geometry to which I can apply fillets. Let's activate the Line tool. Place a line here. Right-click and Enter to close the tool. Now a 3-point arc. First point, second point, and third point. And let's activate the fillet command. First, let's specify a radius. 2 units will be fine. Let's work in trim mode. Right-click and trim. Now we need to choose the trim mode option, trim or no trim. In my case, I want to trim. Select my first line and the second line. The fillet is created and the original geometry is trimmed. Once again, the position and shape of the fillet depend upon the order of selection. Let's undo and activate the fillet command again. I'm going to leave the radius at 2 units. Let's stay in no trim mode, but let's work in multiple mode. Right-click and select multiple. Let's select the arc and then the line. Here's my first fillet. Let's create another fillet, first selecting the arc and then this line. Notice that I select the line on this side. However, take a look at the command line. No valid fillet with radius 2. AutoCAD wasn't able to generate the fillet as I'd requested. Since we have the No Trim option active, there's just not enough space between the line and the arc to create a fillet with a radius of 2 units. Let's try again. I'll select the arc and then select the line over here, and my fillet appears. I'm going to right-click and select radius so I can change the radius value. Enter 0.5 and press Enter. Now I'm going to select the arc again. And when I mouse over the line, we do see a preview, so AutoCAD will be able to generate the fillet. Let's make the selection of the line, and here's the fillet. Same thing over here. And I see the preview. Left-click to accept the fillet. Right-click and Enter to close the tool. Let's undo. Let's activate the fillet command again and continue our experiments. The radius value of 2 units is okay. Let's change to trim mode with a right-click and select Trim. Now we choose the Trim option, right-click Trim. Once again, select the arc. Let's mouse over the line. Do we have a preview? Yes, we do. At this point. But as I continue to mouse over the line, we don't have the preview on this side. And we don't have it over here either. Here's a preview of the fillet as I mouse toward the end of the line. Before I make my second selection, let's change the radius value to 1 unit. Right-click, Radius. Specify the radius, 1, and enter. And again, we have a preview. We have a preview on both sides. We also have a preview when I mouse further down the line. Left-click to place the fillet. The fillet command is executed and the source geometry is trimmed. Let me pan to the right for another example. I'm going to create a couple circles. Right-click, Repeat Circle. And let's activate the fillet command. Let's go into trim mode with a right-click, scroll down to trim. Let's use the no trim option and multiple mode. Now let's select the circle right here. When I mouse over the second circle, I see a preview of the fillet. Let's left-click to accept that and modify the radius. Right-click, Radius, enter a value of 3 units. Press Enter. Let's make our selections again. First circle and second circle. And another fillet here. Now, when I try to create a 3-unit radius between these two segments, it doesn't work. As you see, no preview, and when I left-click, no valid fillet with radius 3. Let's right-click, select Radius, and modify the value. We'll change it to 1 unit. Press Enter. And now we're able to create the fillet between these two segments. Right-click and Enter to close the tool. Let's create another example, this time using a polyline. Right-click and close. Activate the fillet command. Currently, no trim is the active mode with a radius of 1 unit. Let's go into multiple mode with a right-click and select multiple. And let's place our fillets. First and second selections. Another fillet. Another fillet. And last one here. Right-click and Enter to close the tool. And let's undo those fillets. A faster way to create fillets is to use the Polyline option. Let's right-click and select Polyline. Now when I mouse over, I see a preview of all 6 fillets. Let's left-click to accept that. And AutoCAD generates our fillets, leaving the source geometry untrimmed. This concludes our tutorial about the fillet command.